morning. And I'd like to welcome everyone to the last Sunday and the last day of the month of January for the year 2016. With this Sunday, with this day, January 31st, we bring this first month of January to a close. Patty's in Marysville this morning, so she's unable to join us, but she sends her best. It's been a pretty hectic time for her. She was in Berkeley yesterday, helping at the Jodo Shinshu Center with the youth event, and today now she's in Marysville. So, but with this being still the month of January, the last day of January, I'd like to give my once-a-year request to consider joining and becoming a member of the Betsuing. Or even better, if you are a member, keep your membership current. Our national organization, BCA, assesses every temple on a 5-year average. So if you only join for 1 year, the temple ends up being in the red. So please continue to support this remarkable Sacramento Betsuing with your membership and or your tax-deductible donations. Okay, that's it. The Sacramento Betsuing, founded in 1899, is the second oldest temple in the mainland United States, San Francisco being the first, founded a year earlier. And I really feel we're fortunate to be a part of such an active and diverse Sangha. We are now, and have been, the largest temple in BCA. And I think it's certainly worthy of keeping the Sacramento Betsuing on the map. So, okay. This past Monday, we completed for the 32nd straight year my annual Metta Padma class that is the religious award class for Cub Scouts and Girl Scouts. My students are usually about 9 years and up, and over the years I have estimated I've had about 600 students come through this class. And while the kids are taking this class, I also invite parents to come, and also I invite anyone else interested in attending. So I'm just kind of curious, today, how many former students of Metta Padma do I have? Oh, right, Jeff, right? Well, we have quite a few. How many parents of former? Okay. Very good, thank you. All of my kids learn that the very essence of Buddhism is what? Metta Padma students? Anyone? Essence of Buddhism is impermanence and what? Impermanence and jhana. What is it? Huh? Yes, impermanence and interdependence. Impermanence and interdependence. Essence of Buddhism always comes back to impermanence and interdependence. In this class, we discuss the essential ways the historical Buddha taught the teachings of impermanence and interdependence. And the legend of his life tells us that after his enlightenment, he went to find the 5 monks that once had great confidence in Siddhartha's desire to find truth in life. And eventually they left him because they thought that he had given up. But Siddhartha, once enlightened, now the Buddha, found the 5 monks at the deer park near the city of Benares, and there he taught them what came to be known as the Dharma. And for the first time, the 3 treasures were together. The Buddha sharing the Dharma with the first Sangha of the 5 monks. He taught them the Dharma using the teachings of what came to be known as the 4 Noble Truths, the Eightfold Path, and anyone? Middle path, right. Who's that? Good. Middle path, that's right. Four Noble Truths, compassion, middle path. And I'm going to talk a little bit about middle path today. In our class, we also talked about the essence of Siddhartha's enlightenment. And at the heart of enlightenment, the heart of his enlightenment is wisdom and... Oh, come on, we just took this class. What? Compassion, right. Wisdom and compassion, very good. Not just any wisdom and compassion, but infinite and immeasurable wisdom and compassion. Infinite, immeasurable, caring and understanding. Caring and understanding that's never ending. Now, which is more important, wisdom or compassion? What do you think? Huh? Which is more important? You don't remember? No. Well, we need both. Both. Wisdom alone has no life, and compassion alone has no focus. It actually can be hurtful. Compassion alone is not enough. Wisdom alone is not enough. In other words, wisdom and compassion must work together. I once read an incident where a couple, they were enjoying a spring afternoon in the park that was across the street from a busy street where they lived. There was a nice-sized pond in this park, and on this spring day, as they sat by the water, they noticed a mother duck followed by a line of ducklings was crossing the busy street. All the cars had stopped so the duck and the ducklings could cross the street. And when they got to the curb, the mother duck effortlessly jumped up the curb and waddled towards the pond, and the ducklings followed. Some were able to make the jump to the curb, but some were not. The couple watched as the ducklings struggled to jump the curb, only to end up bouncing back down like soft little feathers, balls of feathers. The curb must have seemed like a steep cliff to these little ducklings, too high for them to get over. So feeling sorry for the ducklings, and feeling they were good Buddhists, they thought, well, we'll go over and help these struggling ducklings up the curb. But when they tried to reach down to help the ducklings, they panicked and scattered wildly. Some running back into the street and being crushed by cars. And they thought, oh my, not good. You know, compassion only proved most harmful. And this proved to be a perfect example of compassion without wisdom. Caring without understanding has no focus. Wisdom only is insufficient and has no life. This year in the class, one of my students, Kiana Nakaoka, she lost her very much loved puppy. Yeah, and she was very sad. And as we who have lost pet members of our family know well, they are truly a part of our family, and the sadness we feel is deep. But if Kiana had shared her sadness with someone who had only wisdom, their response would be, in a way, very heartless, even hurtful. Such a person with only wisdom might say, well, Kiana, that's impermanence, get over it. Yeah. This is why, in understanding the Dharma, we know that we must have both wisdom and compassion. We must have both caring and understanding. We often hear about wisdom and compassion. They are not only the two pillars of Buddhism, but the concept of Amida is a combination of wisdom and compassion. Amida is just the concept of wisdom and compassion together. And our Metta Padma students know well that this is the essence of enlightenment, and we need both. I'd like to share a little story that I heard once that I think brings this home. It's my favorite story about Genshin, the sixth of the 7 masters of Jodo Shinshu. And this story was told to me by my friend, the Reverend Akio Miyaji, many years ago. And I love this story so much that I wrote it up into what I think might eventually become another children's story. But Genshin lived during the Nara period in Japan. This was around 1,000 years ago. Actually, next year will be 1,000 years since Genshin passed away. Genshin, as I mentioned, is the sixth of the seven masters of Jodo Shinshu, and he can be found on the altar. The far left, there's a scroll hanging with 7 figures on them. And Genshin is, as I mentioned, the sixth of the 7 masters. The first 2 were in India, the next 3 in China, and the last 2 in Japan. When Genshin was a child, he was found to be like a Dharma genius. He had mastered the sutras, and his understanding of the Dharma was so deep, even as a young child and young growing up, was so deep that eventually even the emperor had come to hear of him. So when the emperor met Genshin finally, he was so impressed, and he offered to build Genshin a great temple and make him the abbot, the head priest. Genshin humbly refused the offer and told the emperor he wanted only to share the Dharma, and he would be happy with a small school where he might be able to teach. Done, said the emperor. He built a school for Genshin in the Higashiyama eastern mountains of Kyoto. Of course, there were many who wished to study under him now. After all, Genshin had the emperor's stamp of approval. Well, one day it said that Genshin was teaching a class of no doubt very elite students. Perhaps he was talking about compassion. It was late autumn. During his talk, he noticed that there were some deer grazing on the few remaining green leaves on the bushes and trees near the school. Genshin immediately picked up a stick and jumped out into the yard. Genshin began beating the deer so hard that he broke the stick, and then shouting at them, he chased them up the hill, and finally he would even stop to hurl rocks at them until they all ran off. Genshin returned to the class and then continued his lecture on compassion. The students, of course, were shocked and appalled. They thought, what a hypocrite. With each passing day, fewer students came to class. They thought, well, Genshin talks about compassion, but he has none. Finally, one of the few remaining students went up to their teacher and asked if Genshin was aware why the students were no longer coming. And Genshin, he had no idea. The student explained to his teacher that the incident of the deer, he said, revealed his hypocrisy. When the deer were feeding on the few green leaves and plants by the school, he chased them away, beating and yelling at them. The student added that if Genshin were truly compassionate, he would have fed those deer. And at the very least, he should have allowed the deer to feed undisturbed by the school. Genshin sincerely explained to the student, you don't understand. I love those deer. In a few short weeks, winter will be here, and many farmers become hunters during the winter, and they will come to the mountains and they will hunt the deer. If we allow the deer to feed near us, or worse yet, if we feed those deer, then when the deer see the hunters, they will go to them, thinking, man is our friend, and maybe they'll even feed us. And they would be killed. They would be killed. And so Genshin said, because I love these deer, I must teach them, when you see human beings, run for your life. Run for your life so you can live. Genshin's actions revealed that compassion without wisdom is useless and can actually be harmful. We need both wisdom and compassion. For this is the middle path. The middle path of life is having both. Compassion without wisdom has no focus. Wisdom without compassion has no life. Doing what we think is nice, doing what we think is compassionate, can sometimes be the most harmful thing we can do. As I've often said, Buddhism is not about being nice. Buddhism is about being real. The Buddha never talked about being nice. Instead, the Buddha taught, and the encouragement of all the Buddha Dharma over the centuries has been to simply wake up. Let us open our Dharma eyes, live fully in this moment right now, see things as they are. When the deer were feeding by the school, Genshin was fully in that moment, and seeing the reality of things as they are, he was able to respond to the moment with both wisdom and compassion. This is nothing less than the essence of Siddhartha's enlightenment. So with this little review of what I hope we've learned in our Metta Padma class, I'd like to congratulate my 32nd graduating class of Metta Padma students for the year 2015-16. In closing, please join me in Gassho. The middle path is to live with both wisdom and compassion. We must have both caring and understanding. The idea of Amida is a combination of both wisdom and compassion, and Nembutsu is an expression of gratitude for the caring and understanding, like Genshin's wisdom and compassion, that has nurtured and continues to sustain our lives. Namo Amida. Namo Amida. Namo Amida. Namo Amida.